Great Monday morning to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I am James Detroit. It is March 1st. I do want to thank you for spending time, the little bit of time it takes to watch these videos. The update on the James Detroit site is we are very close. I'm hoping that in the month before March expires, we have our own platform, and we hope to see that we can draw some momentum. There is some excitement about having that, and all of the things going to come with it, because I really think we have some great ideas. But what is the true truth teller? Time. So we shall see. There are a series of videos I would like to do to try to keep these short, and so I'm going to start with reading an article, and maybe you may or may not. You might just tune out right now. I can't stand it when James reads another article. Okay. Reach out, share that with me then, please. But until I can figure out the technology to link it, here's what I got for you. It's story time, as my good friend Ray likes to say. It's story time. And this story is from Charles Hugh Smith. And it talks about the myths of green energy, so please bear with me. Finance is often cloaked in arcane terminology and math, but the one dynamic that governs the future is actually very simple, and here it is. All debt is borrowed against future supplies of affordable hydrocarbons, i.e., oil, coal, and natural gas. Since global economic activity is ultimately dependent on a continued abundance of affordable energy, it follows that all money borrowed against future income is actually being borrowed against future supplies of affordable energy. Many people believe that alternative energy, green energy, will soon replace most all hydrocarbon energy sources, but this belief is not realistic. All the renewable energy sources are about 3% of all energy consumed, with hydropower providing another few percent. There are unavoidable headwinds to this appealing fantasy. Number one, all renewable energy is actually replaceable energy. Analyst Nate Hagens points out. Every 15 to 25 years or so, and less in many cases, much or all of the alt energy systems and structures have to be replaced, and little of the necessary mining, manufacturing, and transport can be performed with renewable electricity these sources generate. Virtually all the heavy lifting of these processes require hydrocarbons, and especially oil. Number two, wind and solar renewable energy is intermittent and therefore requires changes in behavior. No clothes dryers or electric ovens used after dark, etc. Or battery storage on a scale that isn't practical in terms of the materials required. And we see the disaster in Texas, by the way, recently. Number three, batteries are also replaceable and don't last very long. The percentage of lithium-ion batteries being recycled globally is near zero, so all batteries end up costly, toxic landfill. Number four, battery technologies are limited by the physics of energy storage and materials. Moving whiz-bang exotic technologies from the lab to global scales of production is non-trivial. Number five, the material and energy resources required to build alt energy sources that replace hydrocarbon energy and replace all the alt energy which has been broken down or reached the end of its lifespan exceeds the affordable reserves of materials and energy available on the planet. Number six, externalized costs of alt energy are not being included in the cost. Nobody's adding the immense cost of the environmental damage caused by lithium mines to the price of the lithium batteries. Once the full external costs are included, the cost is no longer as affordable as promoters claim. Now, let me just inject here. Please look it up. go to DuckDuckGo and check out an aerial view or the macro view of a lithium mine. And then take a look at a fracking site. And tell me what is more long-term damaging, what is more destructive to our planet. Yeah, I get a little tone, I get a little attitude, because it's absurd that we would just listen to some pundit, listen to some narrative on mainstream media, and just think, oh, well, we need to be using more lithium. Number 7. None of the so-called green replaceable energy has actually replaced hydrocarbons. All the alt energy has done is increase total energy consumption. This is what's called Jevons paradox. Every increase in efficiency or energy production only increases consumption. Here's a real-world example. Building another freeway doesn't actually reduce congestion in the old freeway. It simply encourages people to drive more, so both freeways are soon congested. Setting aside the impracticalities of replacing most of all hydrocarbons with replaceable energy, the real issue is all debt service repayment is ultimately funded by future energy. On the face of it, future income is used to pay back borrowed money. But all future income is nothing more than a claim on future energy. Money without access to affordable energy is worthless. Imagine being airdropped into the Sahara Desert with a backpack of gold and $100 bills. You're wealthy in terms of money, but if there's no water, food, and transport to buy with your money, you'll die. The point is that money is only valuable if the essentials of life are available at affordable prices. Right now, the average full-time wage in the U.S. is about $19 an hour. And the average cost of a gallon of gasoline is $2.25. Well, since the writing of this article, it's now, I think, a little bit higher, especially around where we are. So a mere 7 minutes of pre-tax labor will buy a gallon of gasoline. But what happens if inflation increases the cost of oil, but wages continue stagnating? What happens to the economy if it takes 1 hour of labor to buy a gallon of gasoline instead of 7 minutes? Economics claims that cheaper substitutes will appear to replace whatever is expensive. So cheap electricity will replace costly oil, or transport will switch to cheap natural gas. But these proposed transitions are not cost-free. The cost of replacing 100 million internal combustion engines, ICE, vehicles is non-trivial, as is building the replaceable energy infrastructure needed to power all these vehicles. The true costs of replaceable energy have been fudged by not counting external costs or replacement costs. The full life cycle costs of replaceable energy are much higher than promoters are claiming. There are supply constraints that are also not included. For example, all the plastic in the world is still derived from oil, not electricity. Note that each electric vehicle contains hundreds of pounds of plastic. Energy in any form is not magically pliable. Just as we can't turn electricity into jet fuel, we can't turn a barrel of oil into only diesel fuel. Coal can be turned into liquid fuel, but the process is non-trivial. All of which is to say that the cost of energy and hours of labor is likely to increase, possibly by more than the global economy can afford. Not just possibly, it's highly probable. There may also be supply constraint situations where the energy people want and need is not available to sufficient quantities to meet demand at any price. As software eats the world and automation replaces costly human labor, it is also likely that the erosion of the purchasing power of labor that's been a trend for 20 years will continue and accelerate. Analyst Gail Turberg has done an excellent job of explaining that it's not just the availability of energy that matters, it's the affordability of that energy to the bottom 90% of consumers. Again, money is nothing but a claim on future energy, because energy is the foundation of the global economy. Without energy, we're all stranded in the desert, and all our money is worthless because it can no longer buy what we need to live. Central banks can print infinite amounts of currency, but they can't print energy. And so all central banks can do is add zeros to the currency. They can't make energy more affordable or guarantee that a day's labor will buy more than a fraction of that energy that labor can buy today. The global financial system has played a game in which money is either printed or borrowed into existence on the theory that energy will be more abundant and more affordable in the future. If this theory turns out to be incorrect, the money used in the future to pay back debts incurred today will have near zero value. The question is, how much energy, water, and food will the money created out of thin air in the future buy? If the lender can only buy a tiny sliver of the energy, water, and food that the money could have bought at the time the money was borrowed, then it won't really matter how many zeros the money will have. What matters is how much purchasing power of essentials the money retains. Borrowing trillions of dollars, euros, yen, yuan every year expands the claims on future energy at a rate that far exceeds the actual expansion of energy in any form. This has created an illusion that we can always create money out of thin air and will magically hold its current purchasing power for greater amounts of energy, food, and water. The monumental asymmetry between the staggering rate of expansion of money, claims on future energy, and the stagnant supply of energy means this illusion is only temporary. Many people have expressed to me that I'm too political, that everything I always end up being political, that everything always ends up being about politics. What so many people so close to me have missed is it's always been about the money. An R and a D next to people's name in the United States simply creates a division. Divide us so they can conquer us. I will say that one of the great quotes, and Orrin Woodward has included it in his most recent book, and I'm going to just get to it. The Henry Ford quote. And this means so much because how long ago did Henry Ford die? 70 years? Henry Ford quote, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." End quote. That system, that fractional reserve banking system, the international monetary oversight, the central bank, the fact that the Fed and the Treasury now are lockstep, and the reason why so many true American patriots did not want the formation of the Fed in 1913, the reason why the Titanic, the death of the people that died in that shipwreck, the most significant aspect of that, in my opinion, was the people that were against the formation of the Fed. The people that died on that boat, many of them very wealthy, very influential, and against the formation of the Fed because they knew where this would take our country. And it has, just over 100 years later. Yeah, politics are everywhere. Politics are in your family setting. Politics are in your church. Politics are in your schools. Politics are at work. Politics are not just making policy in Washington or in your state capital or at your local township or in your county. Dr. Bruce Rubenstein, a history professor with the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and Flint campuses, first said that to me, or I first heard him say that in a class in 1999. And I kind of doubted it. I quickly realized politics are everywhere. And the reason why politics are everywhere is because it's almost always about the money. We need to be seeking the truth. There is nothing about green energy to save the planet, to do all these things. The erosion of limestone is the single largest contributor of the gases in our atmosphere, the CO2 gases. The one volcanic eruption, one earthquake. But what is the erosion of limestone? Our mountain ranges, just to start with. The ability for the human beings to make an impact. Sure, we should be conscientious, but the United States of America has done more in the name of progress, clean water, clean air, etc., than any other country, especially over these last 4 years. But over the last 40 years, we've done more than any other country. I want you to think about that. Everything I just said. I hope you have a great Monday. We're going to have a fantastic March. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you and getting a chance to discuss these issues and many more in person as we do every Friday. I'm out for now. I'm James Detroit. Talk soon.